Be'ezrat Hashem, this lecture will be Le'ili Nishmat Zebulun ben Nekadam Yusupov. May their soul go higher and higher in Gan Eden, in heaven. Amen. So, first of all, I want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And I think that it's also a challenge on my part to try to create a lecture and content that hopefully, with the grace of God, that we will be able to learn something from it. Today's lecture was entitled Self-Worth and Love. Yes.
Is it on?
It is on.
Okay.
Thank you, Yasmin. I appreciate that. Okay. So, it was entitled Self-Worth and Love. We'll start off with a little story. I think that this story will kind of put the whole perspective of what self-worth is. It's a true story. It was said over by the former vice president and once presidential candidate, Al Gore. The story he told over was there was a dinner for a group of senators and House Representative members. And while they were at the dinner, the waiters were serving potatoes, and as they were putting the potatoes on the plates, the waiter would come around with some butter and put a wedge of butter on everyone's plate. One of the senators, the name was in the story I read, but it was a while ago, I don't remember the name, but one of the senators turned to the waiter and said, "Can you please give me a second wedge of butter?" And the waiter said, "I'm sorry, it's one wedge of butter for everyone." And the senator turns to him and says, "Let me tell you who I am. I'm the senator of this and this state. I sit on the financial committee. I'm on the security committee in the House of Representatives and this." And he's going on listing all his qualifications and all his achievements of why this waiter should listen to him and give him another wedge of butter. And after he finished his whole rant of who he was and what he is, the waiter turns to the senator and says, "And I'm in charge of the butter, and you're getting one wedge." The waiter said, "I'm in charge of the butter, and you're getting one wedge." Now this waiter, I think, understood his self-worth. He understood that he's also a somebody. I want to read to you from one of the great tzaddikim that we had, one of our righteous men of the 19th century. His name was Rav Tzadok HaKohen. He wrote a couple of sefarim, a couple of books, and a lot of them deal with Kabbalistic, mystical Jewish ideas. But I want to tell you what he writes about emunah. Emunah, we all know what it means, is to believe in Hashem, to believe that there's a God, and that God has not only created the world, but continues to watch the world and continually makes everything that happens in the world. And listen what he says here. I'll read it in Hebrew and I'll translate it into English. Kishem shetzarich adam lehamin b'Hashem yitbarach. Just as it is, every single Jew must believe that there is a God. That's what he says right here. Kach tzarich acher kach lehamin be'atzmo. Afterwards, after he believes that there's a God, a person has to believe in himself. So part of belief in Judaism requires belief that there's a God, and then belief that you're somebody, that you have worth and value. Many years ago, about almost 1,000 years ago, the world was a very pagan society, meaning that people believed in idols and in the sun and the moon and the cattle and the cow and the grass, and gave them all sorts of divine abilities, and people prayed to them. Now, most of the world doesn't believe in this nonsense of idols. But another challenge of today's day and age is that many people don't believe in themselves. People just say, "Who am I? I don't come from such a famous family. I don't come from such special people. Who am I? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a Rebbitzin. I'm not. Who am I? That what I do makes any difference. And this is a problem by many people. And on the other hand, some people think that if I do think I'm a somebody, then I have another issue. I have an issue of being haughty, of gava, of thinking that I'm all that, which is not correct either. So today, hopefully, if Hashem allows, we will have a different understanding of what it means to value ourselves. There's an amazing story that happened in the times of the greatest of the Kabbalists, the Arizal. At his time, there was a very simple Jew. Wasn't very learned, couldn't learn well, but he believed in Hashem and he tried to do his best to do his mitzvot. And one day he went to the shul and he heard a lecture. And the rabbi in the lecture, the Rav of the shul, was teaching about that in the times of the temple, there used to be something that was called lechem hapanim, or the show bread. They used to bake 12 loaves of bread every week in the temple, and they put it on the shulchan, on the special table in the temple, and it would stay fresh an entire week, hot and fresh the entire week. They would put it out on Friday, and they'd leave it in the temple the whole week, and the following Friday they ate from it, and it felt and tasted fresh, as it just came out of the oven. It was a huge miracle. And not only that, you took a little bite of the bread, and you were already satisfied. You couldn't eat anymore, that full you were. And he was talking about how great the lechem hapanim was and how special the showbread was. And after the lecture, this simple Jew, or what we call a simple Jew, came home and told to his wife, honey, I heard about this lechem hapanim, this great bread that Hashem used to love so much and blessed it so much. And the priests, the Kohanim, ate it and it was such a special thing. I want to give God lechem hapanim. I want to make showbread. I want to give lechem hapanim to Hashem. So his wife said, what do we need to do? You know, she's a simple Jew too. So he said, I need to make, we're going to make 12 breads. And I'm going to take it to the shul on Friday, like they brought in the Mikdash in the temple on Friday. I'm going to put it inside the Aron HaKodesh. I'm going to put it inside the ark. And Hashem is going to enjoy it. And so that was their plan, and that's what they did. Friday afternoon, while everybody was busy in their homes. No, this is in the times of the Arizal. So this is maybe like 150, 200 years ago in Israel, in Tzafat. And he gets his bread together, the 12 loaves of bread. And while everybody's busy getting ready for Shabbat, he sneaks into the local shul, the shul that he prays at. He goes to the Aron HaKodesh, opens it up, and he puts the 12 loaves of bread inside. He closes it, and he prays to Hashem, please accept my lechem hapanim. He comes to shul the next morning. Everyone's praying shaharit. And they start to take out the Torah. And now he's not sure, is his bread, what happened to his bread? They open the ark, and the bread is gone. After prayers, he comes home and he tells his wife, honey, you wouldn't believe it. God took our bread. He loves it. He accepted it. He took it. We did such a great mitzvah. His wife was excited. He was excited. And so now it became every single week. His wife would prepare the halot. And on Friday, when everyone was busy, he would go into the synagogue and put the bread into the ark. And the next morning, it was gone. And it went on week after week until one time, when he came in on a Friday, for whatever reason, the rabbi of the synagogue decided to come early to do something. And he sees this guy, Yosela, opening the ark and putting bread, and he says, hey! The halacha is you're not allowed to put food inside the ark. You're not allowed to do that. What are you doing? He says, Rabbi, what are you talking about? You know, every week I put it in. I've been doing it for months now. And Hashem takes my bread. The The rabbi says, I don't know what you're talking about. The halacha is asur. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to put food in there. It must be somebody else is taking it, not God. He says, Rabbi, I'm telling you, like week in, week out, I'm doing it. It's happening. The rabbi said, you know what? Put your bread inside. Let's see what happens. So they put the bread inside, and now the rabbi and him are hiding in the back of the synagogue to see what happens. And on cue, walks in the gabai, the person who takes care of the shul, the caretaker. He comes in, he opens the ark, he takes out the loaves of bread, he has a bag prepared, he puts it in, he says, thank you Hashem for the bread, now my family has what to eat. And he goes and he takes it home to his family. And this Yossele now, he's crying, he can't believe it. He says, every week I thought Hashem was taking how foolish I was. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. He comes home crying, he tells his wife, and they both start to cry. How silly he was, he thought. Wasn't too long after. But listen, that's just the story. Listen to where we're getting out. Just a day or two later, the great Kabbalist, the Arizal, has a dream. And in the dream, he hears the heavenly voice call out and says as follows. Listen to what the Kabbalist heard in his dream, what the Arizal heard in his dream. I'll read it in Hebrew and translate it. מיום שחרב הבית לא היה נחת רוח לקדוש ברוך הוא כמו באותה שעה שהיה זה מביא שתי הלחם בתמימות ליבו. From the day that the temple was destroyed, Hashem did not get Nahat Ruach, he did not get enjoyment from this world until this person started putting his bread into the ark. The heavenly voice, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem, was saying that I really enjoyed this man's mitzvah that he thought he was doing. That Hashem loved the fact that he put the bread in there, that he really did it out of the pureness of his heart, thinking that this is what needed to get done, and he did it. Hashem was in love with that act of his mitzvah. You see, we think, especially in our day and age, in our culture, that in order to be great, you need to hit certain qualifications. You need to have at least 10,000 people following you on Instagram so you can get a swipe up, right? Then you've reached some sort of greatness. But the truth is, greatness is not defined by what people think of us, but greatness is defined by the actions that we do. It's not defined by popularity or fame. It's defined by doing everything that we can do. Our Chachamim tells, our sages tell us, every single one of us, every single one of you that here, myself included, have to ask ourselves this question. Can I compare myself to the righteous men and women that lived in the past in Judaism? That means, for ladies, are you like Sarah, Rivka, Rahel, Leah? Are you like these great? You have to ask yourselves that. And I have to ask myself, am I like Moshe? Am I like Aharon? Which is impossible to be as great as Moshe. Who can be as great as Moshe Rabbeinu? Nobody. It says it straight up in the Torah. There's no one like Moshe. But yes, our sages say we have to ask ourselves, do we reach the level of Moses? Do we reach the level of these great people? So how do you understand this? The Rabbeinu Yonah explains it to us. He says, why was Moshe Rabbeinu great? Why was Sarah great? Why was Miriam great? Why were all these people so great? What makes somebody great? Humbleness is very true. But you know what makes somebody great? Living their potential. Moshe Rabbeinu, according to his potential, lived up to his potential, what he can do. Aharon, great as Moshe, is equal to Moshe, but he never spoke to God face to face like Moshe. So how is he equal to Moshe? The Torah says they were both equal. Moshe spoke to God face to face. Aharon never did. Because Aharon filled his potential. He got to where he could get in his level. And that's what we have to ask ourselves. Are we living our full potential? That means whatever level your full potential is, that is you achieving greatness. Not every one of us is going to be famous and popular. Not every one of us is going to be a Rebbetzin or a rabbi. Not every single one of us is going to have that stuff. But the question is, am I doing everything I can in my ability, with my talents, with my capabilities? Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the author of the Mesilat Yesharim, he says it beautifully in his Sefer. He says, everybody has to ask themselves, Ma chovato be'olamo. What is my job in this world? What is my job? You know, a lot of times, young people especially, we're unhappy with ourselves. We're looking around at everybody else, what they got, what they have. I want to do that. If I just had the latest whatever someone else has, then I'm finally going to achieve happiness. The truth is, when people say that, they're really not happy with themselves. They think they want to be someone else, but you can never be somebody else. The only thing you could do is be you. And the moment you realize that you can be you and need to be you and start being yourself, then you're on the path of greatness. Become the real you with the full potential that you have. The Pele Yoetz says as follows, a remarkable statement about the feeling of lack of self-worth. If somebody says, I'm a nobody, what should I get involved? I'm just a little old me, I'm small, I'm insignificant. If I do something, it's not going to change anything. He says that's the biggest error a person can do. And it's not humility to say I'm insignificant. That's not humility. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our leader, was the greatest person, and says he was humble. He was the humblest person ever. He knows he was the greatest person. Humbleness doesn't equal being insignificant. You know what the Pele Yoetz says? It's a lack of belief. If you think you're a nobody, it's a lack of belief. I remember someone once, on a post somewhere I saw, they wrote about a birthday. You know what a birthday? Everyone celebrates a birthday. What's significant about a birthday? This is the post I saw.
That day, how many years you were born?
I mean, boy, you were born that day. But I saw something
You
beautiful.
gave life to your mother.
Listen to what he said here. The day that you were born was the day God decided that this world cannot exist without you.
Wait, let's just add
The day that you were born was the day that God decided that this world cannot exist without you. That means you have to believe that Hashem created you, believes in you, and gave you special talents, abilities, and capabilities that only you have and that you need to give to this world. It's not being arrogant. Which part? The day you were born was the day that God decided that this world cannot exist without you. It is not being haughty. It's not being arrogant to believe this. Arrogance means to be haughty about your past accomplishments. I did X, Y, and Z, so I'm all this. That's haughtiness. What he means is to have self-confidence and self-worth is to understand that I've been created by God, put in this world to achieve, to fulfill, to produce. And as such, I have those abilities, know I have them, and I can do something in this world. Yes?
Question. So what about if happens a mom gives birth to a child, but that child only lives for 6 more months, and what happens there? That child was born to be created into this world.
Yes.
And why?
So it's a little bit off topic from what we're getting in. I will answer it briefly. This is a very hard question as it's a lot of emotions that are involved. A mother went through so many months carrying a child. gives birth, and then the child passes away. What I will tell you in the book of Job, in Eov, he has a very, very tragic. 10 of his sons die at one shot, and he has a very terrible sickness. He's very sick and everything. And we learn there's something very, very important, is that we don't know God's calculations of why things happen. The Ramban, Nachmanides, pretty much explained that sometimes, not always, I'm not a prophet, I can't tell you what happens, when happens, but if you take this understanding in life, it's going to make a lot of things clearer, is that there's something called reincarnations, Gilgulim, reincarnations, that a soul could have lived previously and comes back again in this world now. And as such, something happened to that soul in a previous life. And it needed to come back down for a certain tikkun, certain fixing required. And maybe just needed 6 more months as a baby to live in order to get into heaven.
Why do people say live until 120?
Because we don't know how long a person's supposed to live. So we give a blessing to live to the max, right?
That's how long Moshe lived.
Because Moshe lived to 120, many people lived before Moshe to more than 120, but Moshe's time it was 120, and then it pretty much went down from there. I think today most people don't reach 120.
People reach like 100. Rarely.
Yeah.
Past 100 is very rare.
So yeah, so 120 is what we say. Yes.
On the same question that she asked, so is it something that the baby's soul did in a past life, nothing to do with the mother's karma or something a mother did?
That's true.
No.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah. Again, we don't know. It's usually the baby's soul itself, but again, we don't know. Again, we cannot ever assume things because we just don't know what Hashem is thinking. We don't have prophets today to tell us what is actually happening in heaven. We can understand based on the things that we already know. We can never say for definite. You know, for example, then we'll go away from this idea, but it's a great question, and this requires a whole real understanding on itself. And when you ever learn the Sefer Eov or the Book of Job with the correct commentaries, you'll get into this. The Talmud tells us anybody who dies 50 is between the years of 50 and 60 is it's a severe punishment that they get because they did karet, certain sins that they did that they die and their children will die, and it shows that they're bad people. But then the Gemara tells us that at the same time, today we don't know why someone dies at 50. It's possibly that when he was born, he was only allocated 52 years, right? So you don't know. So you can't start to make assumptions based on what we don't know. So we have to believe in God knows what he's doing, and we take it from there.
So you said whoever lives from 50 to 60 is
Between 50 and 60, if he dies between 50 and 60,
because of what they did before.
it could be, in their life, they might have done many bad sins. Certain sins that have a punishment known as karet. Again, I don't want to focus on that, but those are great questions. I hope I gave you a little bit of an idea of how to view these things when they come up in life. Emunah, belief in Hashem. Hashem created us, and Hashem has belief in us, and as such, we must have belief in ourselves. There's a story said over by the great Rav Shach. He says that there was a big rabbi in Vilna. His name was Vilna Gaon, the Rabbi Eliyahu of Vilna. His wife, the Rebbetzin of the Vilna Gaon, and another woman went collecting money for a certain cause with another woman. And they were always together doing a lot of things, and eventually they both aged, and they made a pact with themselves. The pact was that when one of us die, and we go into the next world, whoever died first will come and visit their friend who's still on this earth to tell us how it is in heaven. A lot of stories of this also in the Talmud. If you're a holy enough person, you'll be able to do such things.
But there isn't.
You'll be able to come back in a dream, and as such, it has happened. It's been recorded.
Is that for both genders, or is this like a male thing? Is it a woman?
It can happen to any male or
It can
female.
happen to everyone.
Yeah.
It's like
They can come back.
voice, right?
It's a talent. It's something that you have to be zochet to, but it has happened. And so this other woman passes away first, and she comes back to her friend, the Vilna Gaon's wife, and tells her, "You have no idea what it's like in heaven, and how much for every little action that we did, how much reward we get." And she's, "I can't tell you all the secrets that are happening here. It's just they don't let me. But I was allowed to tell you one thing. Do you remember that time we went collecting money? and we went to the rich woman's house, and she wasn't home, and we were about to leave, and then we looked down the street, and you saw the woman, and you started to wave to her to get her attention, do you know we both got reward? We got rewarded for that day. But because you waved your hand and I didn't, you got 100 times more reward than I did. Because on this world, every little action that we do is rewarded millions times more. That's why you could never say, it's not worth it. You know, it's some people would say, for example, someone says, let's go to the synagogue today. It's, Shabbat, let's go to the shul, maybe Tehillim, something like that. And then a person says to himself, but today, by accident, I put on the light. Yesterday, I was so hungry by accident, I ate non-kosher. Or I watched something that I shouldn't. It's not worth it to go. I already lost cause. That, by the way, is the evil inclination in you. That's the laziness in a person. It's the Yetzer Hara that wants to make you think that you're a nobody. Because the truth is, every small little act, no matter what you did yesterday, every small little act is counted for itself. And the mitzvah is counted way more than sins. So instead of saying, I sinned already, so there's no point for me to continue doing mitzvot, it's the opposite. Since I sinned, I better go run and do mitzvot right now. Because I have to fix up and I got to get more. But the Yetzer Hara doesn't want you to do it. He wants you to feel, he wants you to lose value of yourself, to feel, who am I? Why am I doing this? And get rid of it. That's the trick. To make the feeling of feeling worthless is the Yetzer Hara's way of making you not succeed in life, making you lose, making you not come closer to God. The Mesilat Yesharim. What should a person do if he thinks, why should I pray? So many things are going on in the world. And they say, pray, pray, pray. But who am I to pray? What am I, my difference? I'm a nobody. I'm not religious. I'm not this, that. Why should I pray? I did avirot. I did sins. The Mesilat Yesharim says something so important. He brings a Gemara, Masechet Sanhedrin, in the Talmud and Masechet Sanhedrin that says, you ever thought about it? The biblical account of creation. God created one man, Adam, and then created Eve. But really, if you think about it, God could have created a whole host of people in one shot. But he could have. So why did God not create 100 people in one shot? 50 men, 50 women, go populate the world, everyone's happy. One person, one man, one woman. Why one?
Step by step, no?
To teach us this. Kedei shekol echad yomar, in order for everyone to say, Bishvili nivra ha'olam. That God created the world for the individual, for me. God created one man, one woman right at the start to tell us that the whole world was worth it just for one person. And who's that one person? Me. We're not so little old me anymore. Now we're a big me. We have a lot of capabilities. You know what it means to pray? Today, I was preparing for a lecture. I give a parsha, a shir, every Thursday night. And then I post it on YouTube. So if you guys want to get to my YouTube channel, if you're not already on it, you can check it out. And I was preparing for the parasha, for the lecture I give. And I opened up the Midrash, and I saw what an amazing Midrash. It's an amazing, listen to what the Midrash said. Everyone knows about Paro, King Pharaoh, right? One of the things that they teach us about King Pharaoh, that he made himself a deity. He said he was a god. And as such, as God, gods don't need to use the bathroom, right? So he didn't go to the bathroom all day.
Oh, God.
What was his trick? No?
He would go to the bathroom in the middle of the night.
No. Early in the morning, he would go to the Nile and relieve himself there, and nobody would know. And he was able to, I don't know how he did it, because if I have to use, I have to go. So, I don't know how you keep yourself all day. But I guess if you're pretending to be a god, you have to do that. So he does this. He pretends to be a god, and he's keeping it. And he goes to, and one day, before the Makot, God comes to Moshe and tells Moshe, go early in the morning when Paro is going into the Nile and tell him that I'm about to bring a plague. So basically, like, right. So basically, he's telling him, go show him that we know that he's not a god, that he's not a deity. And by the way, we're gonna plague his country right now and all his countrymen. But know what the Midrash says? Midrash says something else. Why did God say get up early? Told Moses get up early and go to the Nile. The Midrash now takes a whole different twist on the way we really usually understand this. The Midrash says, you know why? Why did God say to Moses, go early in the morning while Paro is at the Nile?
Because he knows what he's doing there.
Catch him what? Not catch him because what he's doing. Listen to what the Midrash says. The Midrash makes a whole different twist than what we just learned about. The Midrash says, you know what it was? Paro decided that day that he was going to go pray to Hashem. Paro decided that he was going to go pray to Hashem. Now, you can't pray in Egypt because Egypt was so infested with idolatry that you couldn't pray there. There were so many idols there, you couldn't pray there. So Paro decided, I'm going to leave the city of Egypt, the main metropolis of Egypt. I'm going to go outside to the Nile where there's no idols there, and I'm going to pray to God there to get what I want to get, to Hashem. So Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu.
But why would he pray if he didn't?
He realized, he started to believe that there was a God. So he said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to pray to God. So Hashem tells Moshe, get to Paro before he prays to me. So I don't have to listen to him. But listen to it. Basically what the Midrash said. You know what the Midrash just said? Paro, who's enslaving 600,000 Jews. Men alone, not including women and children. He's taking daily blood baths, and the Jewish children, 150 children, he would kill in the morning and in the night to bathe in their blood. And Hashem says, catch him before he starts to pray to me. Why would God even listen? The Midrash is telling us that everybody has the power of prayer. Everybody has the power of prayer. Even the Rasha Paro, even the evildoer Paro has the power. So a person can never say, who am I to pray?
That's dangerous.
It is dangerous. And that's exactly why God stopped him from being able to pray. And it's not only Paro. Nebuchadnezzar also wanted to start singing. And Hashem made sure that he wouldn't. Because everyone has the ability to pray and talk to Hashem. That means, do you know how much we have the power? We're not Paro. We're so much better. We are children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We're children of Sarai, Menu, Rivka, Hele. We have so many powers. We are so pure. We have to take advantage of that. I know we're starting to run out of time. So I want to move over to another idea about self-worth. Today, if you walk into a pharmacy and you want to buy any over-the-counter OTC medicine, over-the-counter medications, they come in a nice package, and they're usually sealed with plastic. Most of the stuff we buy now in the stores are sealed, tight, nice, and you know you're getting a nice, fresh product,
Content.
right? Do you know that wasn't always the case? Do you know that in the 70s and 80s, the medications in a pharmacy, over-the-counter medications, were not sealed. They were not covered over. They were just in a jar and anyone could open them. Do you know what happened?
People touched it.
Somebody came in to a store in Chicago, took the Tylenol, and that time it was in capsules, not caplets, but or pills. They opened the capsule, and they put cyanide in there. Closed the capsules, left it in the jars. Someone, a little 12-year-old boy, was sick. They gave him some Tylenol. He died. And then another family member used the same Tylenol bottle and died. And then other people in Chicago started dying. And then a lot of copycats decided to copy this crime, and throughout the United States, people were dying left and right from Tylenol. And it wasn't until later that they figure out that somebody was poisoning the medications that were in the stores.
So then they thought too.
And then that's when they started to make tamper-proof seals. And that's when you open the Tylenol, now there's like this big seal on the top and you got to fight with it to get it off, right? And the seal over it and over, because all that legislation came after these people happened. But look, One person, one crazy person, decided to put poison in someone's Tylenol for no reason, and now the whole world changed. One person did something, albeit crazy, yet changed the whole world.
One person got on the phone, now the TSA won't let you bring the water bottle.
100%. So we see the value of what one person can achieve. And so I think it's quite clear now to us that we're not just a nobody or a little somebody or just insignificant or not important. And it's not Instagram famous or I don't know, I'm not up to all these other social media platforms that people are up to nowadays. But that doesn't make the person. In fact, the truth is those celebrities in Hollywood, how many of them kill themselves off? How many will tell you we have everything but we have nothing? Because yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because
a lot of videos like they say like I have so much money and everything, but I feel useless.
There's a film that came out by Beryl Solomon. I don't know if you saw it, or Orthodox, and he actually chronicles and he puts it in, and he shows you that he had everything that he could have wanted. He had the money, he had the girls, he had the clubs, he had everything, the show, a reality show, everything. And he felt the most emptiest inside, and he broke down because that's not greatness. Greatness is when you achieve your potential. And achieve it you must, because that's why you're put down in this world. And that you're here, God believes in you, you got to believe in yourself. And you have to do everything in your power that you can do. Everybody has capabilities, everybody has abilities. You must run with them, you must go with them. And don't worry what other people say. This is very important. Don't worry what other people say. You have to make sure that what you're doing is halachically correct. Meaning, sometimes we have a great idea, but it may not be Torah approved. At that point, you must stop that idea and rehash it out and make sure that it comes out Torah approved. Because yes, we have to go in our unique abilities and stuff like that, but the Torah sets laws and guidelines and we have to follow them, right? Unfortunately, sometimes people just go with it and like, I want to be spiritual, and we know that music infuses spirituality into a person, and dancing and happiness makes spirituality into a person, and they start taking this, they start going with it, and then unfortunately it starts to lead to mixed dancing, boys and girls, which is forbidden in the Torah. It's not allowed. There's no permission. You can't. No rabbi can tell you it's okay. It's not okay. And if a person says, no, but I'm doing it to bring Mashiach, no, you're not. Okay? You're not. It's not happening that way. Everything could be done, but it has to be done the right way. You want to have mixed dancing? Good. Get married, dance with your spouse. Put on the music you want. You can tango. You can do what you want. All fine. Halachically permissible. It's very romantic. It's very romantic, but it has to be halachically permissible. Yes.
So you said everybody has potential, everybody has worth. What about the story with the guy who was a waiter and he's in charge of the butter? Is that his full potential?
No, it's not his full potential. Maybe it was. I don't know. But what I think, why I started with that story was because I think that story showed that guy didn't care that someone thought he was just a waiter. Yeah, I'm the waiter. And I'm in charge of the butter. I have to feel happy of what I'm doing, where I'm doing. And I am who I am. Now, maybe I'm not a waiter for the rest of my life. Waiter, maybe I'm waiting to get through college, or maybe I'm waiting to do whatever I need to do so I can get where I need to go. And there's no problem with that, to build yourself up. But to know that you are a somebody at all times.
But is it possible that someone's potential is just like not that high?
It is possible.
People are very.
It is possible. But you see, that's his full potential or her full potential. It's possible. And a person has to be happy with that. You don't have to be famous. There's nowhere in the Torah says, by the time you reach 16, you must be famous and have 100,000 followers. Nowhere, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It could happen, but it's nowhere. It does not need to happen. It should not happen. First of all, social media is a very dangerous place. Yeah. Okay, so what's important is, are we living and leading lives of our full potential, whatever that is for that person. whatever that is for that person. Okay, I'm going to shut the video and then I'll take questions if there are.